jukebox jam and a wood chop light. You see that fence post nail at the top to hold the water bucket when the faucet's off. That hideaway shed ain't just for the straw, but also lighting up and strumming on a guitar. And I sang, man, oh man, where'd the good times go? Back when Fall by Clay Walker was playing on a radio. So I sang, boy, oh boy, how I miss them old Toyotas. Yeah, country is as country does. We was, but no one told us. Yeah, I'm sick of hearing the same thing. Rhinestone cowboy, I'm about to smack y'all like the ass on a cowgirl. I miss the Tennessee, barefoot bandit up in Rocky Top, orange and white blanket up in that red rag tie. You want the gun smoking, bring your ass to the fall. We just some country boys and girls getting stoned in a bomb. I get the chatter, hoochie coochie, I'm the hollow Elvis Presley. Even when I'm fat and old, Dixie chicks are gonna stick me. I'll be somewhere on a boat, getting too damn sunburned. Middle fingers up, sissy still being butt hurt. I'll be casting a line, just sitting watching the float. Jump with the country and country, no need to give it to me. And I sang, man, oh man, where'd the good times go? Back when Fall by Clay Walker was playing on a radio. So I sang, boy, oh boy, how I miss them old Toyotas. Yeah, country is as country does. We was, but no one told us. Yeah, the music industry think it got me itching like sumac. Got a bunch of tins in Tennessee line dancing to this rap. Lap stills to the shimmy of all that bass in the floor. Joyce do it like the legends. Rock it out till we're deaf, boys. I'm kicking up the average like I'm jumping off a Peterbilt. Parking through the algae where the creekers hit the shine steels. Riding down the roads and leaving nothing but a buzz. I put the country in the rap because I'm wrapped up in the nose. Ain't so no song. Just believe me when I say, one day when I'm dead and gone, you'll smirk along and sing. And you'll sing, man, oh man, where'd the good times go? Back when it was holler boys by a church on the radio. So I sang, boy, oh boy, how I miss them old Toyotas. Yeah, country is as country does. We was, but no one told us.
What is going on, everybody? Hopefully y'all stuck around through the song that I dedicated to my son today. Whether you liked it or not, I put it out there. How is everybody doing this Saturday morning? We are back with another Sabaton History Saturday. This time I know I have 4 episodes. We've got today, let's see my list. We've got Far from the Fame, Smoking Snakes, Heart of Iron, The Ballad of Bull. That's 4. I know I've got it this time, so I'm not wrong. We doing it. So, hey, J. Rich, what's going on? Let me say what's going on to people in the chat. Mia, we've got Renton in the house. Charlie, Kevin, how's it going? Lion from the north, I'm glad you're here. How's everybody doing out there? Oh, you finally got sun, J. Rich, no more rain, huh? Hey, I'm glad everybody's come out here. And now I'm going to say, I wanted to start with the Smoking Snakes. I'm curious. Hopefully this is what you guys want to see first. If not, deal with it. I'll let y'all know what's the last 3 are. You know what they are. I just read them off. We'll ask the chat. We'll get some interaction going in between. We go as long as we need to. Now, there is a special hidden episode in here. Now, for this episode, you're really going to have to make the stream, like, lit. It needs to be hype here. Like, 140 some people voted. I got 16 viewers. Let's go. Start sharing. We're going to start watching this. Let's go. Smoking Snakes, the Brazilian Expeditionary Force. A very, very undertold story that should be told. Let's find out.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Pat from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Oh, I almost forgot. Hold up. We got a special guest today. We got Back to School all the way on the left. I mean, this is what we were setting up for. It's been a while since I've done a triple reaction, and Back to School hasn't been on, and our times haven't matched up. Well, here he was. I was like, hey, dude, pop on. Let's go. And then you've got
And for Sabaton history, I'm
Three-part.
down, dude. You know that. I've been telling Bet I love these history things. Is just trying to get me on camera in Cali when they're back east. It's like y'all start and I'm still having breakfast with my kid.
Yeah, exactly. He was literally typing in the chat on his phone and just bloop.
Yep.
I was like, hop in, let's go. A few minutes later, all right, let's go.
You might not think of Brazil when you think of World War II, but the Brazilian Expeditionary Force fought and fought well in Italy, producing 3 extraordinary heroes.
Our song, The Smoking Snakes, is about the memory of those people. And we actually went down to Juez de Fora in Brazil and met the people who served with them.
Now, Para is going to tell you a bit about the song, but I'm going to tell you about the Brazilian Expeditionary Force. When you think of the major combatants of the Second World War, Brazil is usually not the first nation that springs to mind. And indeed, if it had been up to the Brazilian government, they would have preferred to stay out of the conflict. Okay, in the 1920s, Brazil was...
I got a question for you, Raven. Did you watch this reaction? This is week 3, I'm asking this question. Did you watch these 4 reactions?
So the honest answer is no.
Okay, we're gonna keep
haunted
going.
by internal conflicts, both politically and socially. Radicals on the left and on the right fought for control of the state, and a series of coups and insurrections destabilized the country. The rise of Getulio Vargas in the wake of the Brazilian Revolution of 1930 meant that, on the one hand, Brazil began an era of industrialization and social reforms, while on the other hand, the country slowly shifted into authoritarian dictatorship. By 1937, Vargas was basically ruling the country by martial law. But although he had been inspired by and copied from the European fascists on his rise to power, he did not officially align himself with them. One major reason he did not was the growing influence of the United States. The U.S. felt that Brazil...
Lying from hold on.
Oh, calling me out already.
Lying from the north already. Calling out Raven
jinxed
for his internet. He's just hoping you don't freeze back to school. See, this is why I secret, reason why I added back to school in case, 56K here, AOL 1.0 freeze.
The reason I'm here is so that there's entertainment the 16 times that Raven's camera dies during this live.
Yes.
So there is that.
Yeah.
Brazil,
but
most of Central and South America.
This is real interesting to me because in history classes, they really didn't talk much in our schools about Central America and their roles in World War II at all. So this is all news to me. It's not news to me because I didn't watch the reaction. I'm not supposed to. Raven, on the other hand, was paying very close attention to the cabbage farming trends. Farmer's Almanac. So
I need a cabbage button.
Was part of its sphere of economic influence and watched carefully for any signs of foreign influence. And indeed, there was a growing German influence in South America, especially in Argentina, Brazil's major enemy and rival. Though both countries had significant German and Japanese minorities who influenced public opinion. When the U.S. joined the war after Pearl Harbor in December 1941, American politicians acted quickly. Already in January 1942, they met with leading figures from all over South America and made an alliance with most of the nations, except Argentina and Chile. Brazilian politicians would still have gladly traded with the Axis powers, especially after Germany promised favorable arms deals for raw materials. But the U.S. made it perfectly clear that this was not cool with them, and consequences would follow. So Brazil joined their South American alliance. The Axis powers were well aware of the importance of raw materials from South America to...
Mia makes a good point out there. It shows even in different parts of the world that it wasn't mentioned in her history class either. Yeah, Mia, it's for it being such a small group, being 3 men, it's like you would think that the heroism, jeez, that was a rough word, of these 3 men would be glorified as something a generation should look up to rather than...
Right.
I mean,
Forgotten.
Yeah, just untold, not even forgotten. You can't forget something that's untold. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a shame, and I'm glad that I have a part in spreading the story.
The Axis powers were well aware of the importance of raw materials from South America to the Allied war effort. So German and Italian submarines began targeting cargo vessels from Brazil en route to the U.S. In August 1942 alone, German submarine U-507 torpedoed and sank 5 Brazilian ships, and hundreds of dead Brazilian sailors caused a huge public outcry. Although the isolationistic Vargas government did not want to be involved in the war, public opinion forced his hand, and
Me neither, Wesley, to be honest with you. Nope.
Yep.
Brazil declared war on Germany August 22nd, 1942. This meant
Oh yeah, J. Rich, I was honestly just thinking the same thing. Like, no wonder that you know, they claim Hitler ran to Argentina as well. But no wonder why so many, you know, high-ranking Germans did go there and were smuggled there at the end of the war. It is
mobilizing
and
the
stayed
Army and
alive
the
for
Navy,
so long.
though both were in a rather poor state.
And died
Brazil did not have a
without even
large
facing-
army anyhow, nor the equipment to outfit one.
facing
In
any
fact,
consequences.
they were equipped with an amalgamation of European weapons, so they turned to the U.S. for help. The U.S. was actually not all that keen on helping out, since American industry had its hands full with equipping their own units, but they couldn't turn down the Brazilians without insulting them. So they offered to supply them with uniforms and rifles and some older artillery pieces, but everything else would have to wait. Brazil began training a division of 3 regiments with service and support companies attached to it. The Brazilian Expeditionary Force, or FEB, 25
Hey, you make do with what you got, and you gotta do what you gotta do.
Bro,
Right?
there's a big old thing. Look at that vest. Is that like an inflation vest, or is that just like a
That's
Puma
what I was
jacket on
looking
that
at, too.
dude?
I
I'm
have
like,
no
what
idea.
Yeah,
is
it's
that,
like
bro?
that's like their Navy forces or something.
I was gonna say
I can't
is that- or
pronounce that
that's the-
name, but
that's
fled
the-
to Argentina, was there until the 60s when he was finally found. He was a cheese. See, and that's what I'm saying. And some people, some of them got away and they lived out their whole life and died.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, and even the claim that Hitler lived his whole life and died. I mean, it's crazy, the unknown.
support companies attached to it. The Brazilian Expeditionary Force, or FEB, 25,000 men strong. Soon, American outfitted from head to toe, helmet, field jacket, boots, and knife. They still had to train with old Springfield rifles instead of the standard M1s. By July 1943, they were
You
ready.
gotta do
Better.
it.
But the
A rifle
tanks,
is a rifle.
half-tracks, and jeeps that had been promised had still not arrived, as they were not prioritized by American quartermasters. But where would the FEB be deployed? Guard duty on the Portuguese islands of the Atlantic?
Oh no, CNN 66, you're just in time. We're only 4 minutes into the first episode and we've got
Yep.
4 to go. You've seen the title, or 3 to go. Seen the
Yep.
title. If it's lit enough, we got 4 to go. But
Yep.
we'll see.
Atlantic was suggested.
Hit that
Then
light,
there was talk they
share
would
it
ship
around,
out to
let's
North
get people in
Africa,
here.
but
Let's go.
nothing happened for a whole year as the Brazilians waited and trained. By mid-1944, the war in the Mediterranean had progressed from North Africa to Sicily and then bogged down in Italy. With the Americans now engaged in northern France, they could use all the help they could get in Italy, where there was already a multinational force fighting at Monte Cassino. So in July 1944,
Look, I mean, look at that.
Look at all that against the Germans, and
Yeah.
imagine
I
the
mean,
strength of
really.
the German army that we had to bring all that to them.
I mean, just
That's what's crazy.
that picture really depicts on how much it really was that it took in Italy to push them back out of Italy.
the 1st Brazilian Regiment reached Italy. But the Americans there, at first, did not really know what to do with them and didn't even have enough barrack space for them. By now, there was a whole lot of discontent with the whole waiting around to do what they trained for shtick. The Brazilian soldiers were eager, but had been held back for so long that by then they had the saying, mais fácil a uma cobra cachimbo fumar do que a FEB embarzar. It is more likely for a snake to smoke a pipe than for the FEB to go into combat. Sort of like when pigs fly. The smoking snake.
Wait, what?
They said it was more likely for a snake to smoke a pipe than it was for them to
Brazilian
go into
soldiers were
combat.
eager, but had been held back for so long that by then they had
No
the saying,
wonder the
mais
unit
facile
back to the
uma
snakes
cobra
smoking the
cachimbo
pipe."
fumar do que a FEB embaçar. It is more likely for a snake to smoke a pipe than for the FEB to go into combat. Sort of like when pigs fly. The smoking snake became so popular that they made patches of it for their uniforms.
There it
However,
is.
by September 1944, they approached the front lines in Tuscany at the Arno River. Here, they had their baptism by fire. Most of the Brazilian troops were dangerously
Yeah, like from the north, it's a smoking snake, and that's crazy. Now that I learned that there's that backstory to it, is very interesting.
green in spite of the extensive training because only a few older officers had actual combat experience from the Brazilian Revolution. But they fought skirmishes against German and Italian units until the winter came. Allied High Command was determined to make a northern Italian push in spring 1945 with the aim of capturing Bologna. For that, they would have to first secure the high ground in northern Tuscany. So in the winter of 44-45, the Brazilians were sent out to fight in the mountains in temperatures down to minus 20 degrees and often against veteran German Gebirgsjäger.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. I live in upstate New York and minus 30 degrees? No.
No,
You gotta go fight. You gotta go fight.
Negative 20 degrees? No.
Yeah.
You gotta go out and fight in that. Yeah.
All right.
Have fun.
I need
And then like
everybody
they
hit that
come
like
from
button,
a very
share this
jungle
around, like I said,
hot
and
environment.
that's an insane environment to freaking try to fight a war in.
Most of the Brazilians,
dude, I can't understand.
Yeah,
I don't speak.
had never
it's gotta be in
seen
English
snow
for me to
before.
understand.
Fighting in the mountains was
Jared
as tough
had
as you
one
might
for
imagine.
yesterday
The
for
terrain was
lunch.
difficult, and the Brazilians engaged German forces at Monte Castelo, a well-defended artillery position. They were often sent out at night on combat patrols to infiltrate the German lines,
It might be
probe their
Celsius.
defenses, and capture prisoners. As the 1945 campaign season began, Allied High Command began Operation Encore. This was a combined American-British offensive to finally drive the German 10th and 14th armies out of Italy. The Brazilians,
as long
supporting
as-
the Americans,
As long as some of y'all are in there interacting, I'm cool with it. As long as, I don't want people to feel left out. We was just letting them know that we don't understand it. As long as you guys are good, rock on. You feel me? Let's go.
would send out their whole division. They were tasked with attacking
Look at all
Montese,
those
a
units.
major German strongpoint in the south of the Po Valley. The attack on the city was planned for mid-April, and the Brazilians would advance on the left flank of the American thrust, this time even supported by armor. Prior to the attack, the Brazilians sent out patrols to reconnoiter the heights and villages around the city, or to clear minefields and update the maps. But the German infantry lay in wait, and on April 14th, right before the main attack, the Brazilian Mountain Infantry Patrol, consisting of Geraldo Baita da Cruz, Arlindo Lucio da Silva, and Geraldo Rodrigues de Souza, was ambushed by a large German force. Spotted by a German machine gun, the three men ran for cover. They were heavily outnumbered and could not be reinforced, but they did not surrender. Instead, they returned fire until their ammunition ran dry and mortar shells began falling around them. According to the legend, the Brazilians still refused to surrender and instead fixed their bayonets.
My heart just started racing already, like
I know.
thinking
I'm
about
getting-
that because I mean it's like when you're in war, you get a certain aspect. Now I'm going to speak from experience here for a second, and there may be some people in the chat that can relate to it. But when you go to war, there's a feeling that you get. If you ever get put in that situation where it comes down to never surrender, like you can't fight, you can't get out, right? You're not going to stop fighting. You're going to fight till your very last bullet until there's that one left. That's the way we looked at it with my unit. Never surrender. They weren't taking us alive because of what they were going to do to us in the... that's, yeah, I feel that. That's
and advanced on the Germans. The three were killed, and the Germans then buried them and planted a cross as a tribute to the heroism the Brazilians displayed. The cross bears an inscription, which I'll get to in a moment. The battle for Montese began, and the three heroes were not the only Brazilians to die that day. Montese was liberated by the Brazilians after several days of house-to-house fighting, and this battle was both the heaviest and also the final major battle the FEB fought in the Second World War. Fighting continued after the battle as the Germans retreated, but once Mussolini was killed by Italian partisans on April 28th, the unconditional surrender of the Axis forces in Italy was signed. Now, I spoke with a Brazilian historian about the grave and its veracity. The FEB's burial platoon did find a grave with a cross and the inscription v3tReacts Brazil.
Ouch.
And the soldiers were identified by their dog tags. This is
Hopefully you
beyond
get
doubt.
better, man. Soon.
For the Germans to bury them at all is very unusual. Corpses were often booby-trapped even. So
Hey,
you have to
I feel
wonder
that too,
what they
Jay
did
Rich.
to impress the Germans.
I knew someone
The
would.
bayonet charge and facing German fire
theirs.
is
Yep.
likely, though not definitely, an invention. The grave also bears the date January 24th, 1945, long before the fighting for Montese. However, the more famous version of the story is what I said from the Montese fighting, and with Drei Brasilianische Helden, 3 Brazilian heroes, on the grave. So there are 2 competing stories,
Respect.
and we don't know for
I said
sure
that during
what
the
those
video.
brave men in the grave specifically did. Anyhow, the battle for Italy was over, and so was the war for the FEB. For the Brazilian national conscience, the death of the 3 heroes became synonymous with their struggle in a war far from home, in an unfamiliar land, on unfamiliar ground. This fight has become legend, and we will never know what happened exactly on that day. But the story of those brave Brazilian men helps us make sense of the seemingly senseless death of endless millions on the battlefields of the world. These 3 young men died
does indeed.
fighting selflessly against the Nazis to
I
save
wanna bring that
countless other lives, the lives of strangers. That
Selflessness.
is the ultimate sacrifice,
There is
lest we forget.
Selfless service.
there's a
We'd like to thank Icles Rodriguez.
there's a truth to what he's saying, because in troubling times like that, you need heroes to keep the morale going.
Oh yeah.
And I think like in this case, there is no factual proof that we could look at to show exactly what happened to them or where they're buried or any of that. But the history behind that and what that had to do for the people in Brazil, as well as other people in other countries too, those stories of these heroes, it was like the consciousness from World War II was that people started to disbelieve in God, because how could something this bad happen? That was
Exactly.
World War I. World War II does the same thing again, but because of the media and the ability to deal with more with propaganda too, there is a push to tell the story of what's going on in the news every day in the war, right? It still happens today. If there's a conflict, every day it's in the news. But instead of just showing negative stuff like we're all getting our asses handed to us, they focused on finding stories that they could do that lifted the people up instead of making
Exactly.
everybody depressed. And that's the thing I appreciate about these lessons and these stories, whether some of them are folklore or not, because there is no definition, as he said, in this particular case as to what really happened. But the story behind them, they're heroes, dude. They stood
Exactly.
up for their country. Dude, when I saw that clip and they showed the World War I tank, I was like, you gotta be kidding. That's what they had? Like that ain't,
Exactly.
dude, that wasn't even current at that point in time.
Oh yeah, Jay Rich, you're completely right. Throughout time, there's plenty of legends.
Yep.
All right, let's
I bet.
get
bet.
back into
Yep.
this.
Rodriguez and the channel Leitura Obriga Historia for help with the research for this. There is a link to their channel in the description.
Something tells me that's on their cruise.
Now,
probably.
I find it very interesting that you
looked at
chose
that
to write
video and
about
didn't
Brazilians
choose it.
during World War II, you know?
Yeah, it is an interesting thing, you know,
Correct me
but
if I'm wrong,
we get
Chad.
a lot of ideas from fans all across the world, and we do have a lot of Brazilian fans, so they kept giving us ideas.
They've been writing here to us every week since we started saying Smoking Snakes.
Yeah,
Smoking
yeah,
Snakes.
we can imagine
Whoa.
that. But actually, this one was inspired by just researching. We were looking for stories about heroes.
Jay Rich.
And I put in the word heroes.
On
in
the
mo-
internet, okay.
Yeah, in search engines on different languages. And when I put it in German, Helden,
Yeah?
that's when I came across drei Brasiliens Helden.
As we saw in the history.
Yeah, and it was a bit difficult to find the correct information for it because obviously we don't speak Portuguese.
But they think you speak every language.
Yeah.
You guys are gods.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
tell them that.
All right, well,
Okay.
we don't speak all the languages, but we luckily have a lot of friends around the world who help us speak these languages.
Okay.
And some years
We don't speak all these languages, just most of them.
later, we are finding ourselves on a tour in Brazil.
Brazil.
In the city of Curitiba, we went actually to the Smoking Snakes Museum,
Okay.
where we met with some veterans and we were awarded with a medal for the memory of keeping
for
it alive.
commemorating the...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And later we went to a city called Juez de Fora, where obviously the three people that we sing about in the song came from.
Yeah.
And as we were standing backstage before the show was about to begin, the promoter of the concert came and said, "We have a special guest here tonight who would like to meet with you." And in came an older man. Well, we understood he was a veteran. And he explained in Portuguese, though, that he was serving together with the guys that we were singing about.
Oh, so he was fighting in Italy with them.
Yes. The man was making a lot of funny jokes,
Yeah?
including one where he was poking at our singer and he was poking him with the metal armor that he's wearing.
Sure, okay.
And he was like, "That's not bulletproof. So
That's not bulletproof.
you can't survive in war." And then he was looking at our drummer, who's a very tall guy, and said, "You can't survive a war either because you're simply too tall that the enemy will shoot you instantly."
The snipers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we took a couple of pictures with this man. And after that we say, "Thank you for showing up and have a safe trip home because we're going to go onto the stage and perform the show now."
Right?
And he was like, "Yeah, I'm staying for the show." Oh, okay. And we thought, oh, you know, it's going pretty wild out there. It's a heavy metal crowd out there, and they are Brazilians, so they are a very tough crowd. But the man said, "Yeah, but I did survive the war, didn't I? I think I'm gonna survive a heavy metal show."
Survive a Sabaton.
He said, "I did survive the war, didn't I? I think I can survive the show."
Yeah, definitely.
That's Pim.
for real.
Even at the old age, he still got that military attitude. Oh,
Now, there's one thing that you told me, which I think is really interesting. Since your song is a tribute to these men, but there's also tributes to your song.
don't forget, we got 3 more to go. You're gonna have your options here in a minute. Stick around.
Yeah, well, a lot of them actually. If you think about it that way, you refer to the orchestral versions of it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because the song "Smoking Snakes" is obviously about the Brazilian army, and there's a lot of Brazilian army orchestras who cover this one, and I think they actually made it to one of their marching songs now.
Wait, can we hear and see some of those right now? Well, that's really cool that you guys get honored in return.
Yeah. I mean, we always get blushed, even if it's just one person and a different band, or in this case, whole orchestras. We appreciate when people covering our tunes.
Yeah.
In some of our songs, it's actually funny when we are
That's
talking
pretty
about
cool.
a specific country.
That's
We
pretty
try
cool. I
as
like
well
that.
sometimes to get in something of the local language. And in the song
Right.
Smoking Snakes, we have a few words in Portuguese.
Okay.
And it is, of course, it becomes very powerful when it's in your native language. And when thousands of Brazilians sing along to Portuguese language, it sounds like this. And that was the story behind Smoking Snakes.
But we'll see you next time on the Sabaton History Channel.
All right, everybody, thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the Sabaton History channel. Check out Indies other channels. And please also support us here on Patreon, because that's really what makes this thing happen.
Definitely interesting.
And there it is. Hey, we made it through one with no heads. I just jinxed myself, knock on wood. All right, now, this chat interaction, I needed to go down, and we're going to see what we're going to do next. Your options are Far From the Fame, Hearts of Iron, The Ballad of Bull. Go. Quickly, come on, let's go. Move it. We
And
know
while
what
that's
we're
happening,
doing next.
He's
While
gonna
that's
have
happening,
Now, what
Raven's
I
gonna
want to
have some
say
cabbage.
is one thing. It really is a shame that it isn't told more. I mean, I understand that you can't really give a good definition of what happened, and if it happened the way that it's said, then that's the ultimate respect that somebody from the opposing side can do in respect, and say that you're a hero yourself for your country.
Yep.
Let's see. Bull, Hearts of Iron.
I'm seeing a lot of Hearts of Iron.
I see 2 Hearts of Iron, 3 Hearts of Iron, Hearts of Iron. All right, I guess we're gonna go ahead and
Ironheart.
I think it's going to be Hearts of
do
Iron.
Hearts of Iron next. I'm popping in the link now. Just give me 1 second. Now,
If you had a-
Lionheart. No. Oh wait, no, that's good.
the other thing about that is the way they literally hurried up and waited. I mean, that's the military like term. Hurry up and wait. Get to where you need to go. Wait. Stop. That's it. You're not going anywhere yet. And
We're
here
getting.
it is.
Hey, Jay Rich, you can't vote 14 times for Bull and have
Wait.
it count as 14 votes.
Jay Rich.
Just saying.
Jay Rich. Whoa. Calm down, buddy. Whoa.
Y'all can't count.
All right. So, anyway, we're gonna go with Hearts of Iron because that's what was winning until Jay Rich started He started rigging the vote.
He's trying to tweak the
America.
algorithm.
All right. Anyway, let's get into this. I am interested in this one because this is about the battle of Berlin. So I'm very interested to watch this History Channel. Oh yeah, everybody, all the laughy faces. Let's go. I didn't have my education. I joined the army.
Bro,
I got army
I was-
education.
I was educated in Los Angeles, so you get a handicap placard afterwards for that. So there is that.
All
Just
right.
saying.
So let's go. We're gonna get into Hearts of Iron. Hopefully y'all ready. Hope you
Y'all
hit that
let's
like
take
and
the
share. Let's go.
I'm Indy Nidell.
I'm Per from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
A German
sure to
soldier
join the
defying
Discord.
Hitler's orders might sound dangerous to you, and it was, but for one man, it was necessary to save many lives.
Oh yeah, join that Discord link that 3Raven here just put in the chat because that's what he's good for, and he's also
When his
learning
internet,
to be a
when his internet
reactor as
died.
well. So join that
Oh, he's gonna
Discord.
be?
You can chat with us. You can gift with us. We have fun. That's where we go and we blow off some steam. Join it, chat, do whatever. You get first notification of me dropping new videos. 3Raven here, back to school. Let's go.
Lives.
And we were looking for a story where the Germans was not always the bad guys.
A story which I'm going to tell you right now, and then Per's going to tell you about the song. From the beginning of the Soviet Union's final World War II offensive towards Berlin on April 16, 1945, the situation on the Eastern Front had deteriorated rapidly for the Germans. By the 22nd, Soviet tank corps spearheads were already starting to surround.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing that. Like,
right?
I'm
In the
hearing,
background.
yeah, it's like, ooh. I remember. I'm
Around Berlin
remembering
from the
song.
north and the south. With the encirclement of Berlin soon at hand, German high command from the bunkers under the city center were calling for immediate assistance. The 12th Army, under General of the Panzertruppe Walter Venk, had just retreated east of the Elbe at this point. fighting a losing battle against the American advance from the west. Now beyond the river, they could make a stand while providing a tactical reserve against that advance. But the Führer's orders changed their enemies. Now, Venk's 12th was ordered to strike to the east, into the Soviet flanks, and to relieve Berlin. However, what was called an army, a corps, or even a detachment this late in the war was often nothing more than a mixed group of veterans, stragglers, wounded, and conscripted youngsters and middle-aged and even old men. Venk's 12th had a large group of basically kids from the Hitler Youth, young men who hadn't finished school, and they were now tasked.
That's sick. I hate that's one
Who
big
put
thing.
like kids in war?
Hitler.
Well,
People like Hitler.
The sad thing is it isn't just him. In a lot of third world countries,
That's what they do.
that's what they do.
Yep.
12th had a large group of basically kids from the Hitler Youth, young men who hadn't finished school, and they were now tasked with taking on Russian tanks. According to General Feldmarschall Wilhelm Keitel,
Yeah,
they were
because
to
that's
unite
smart.
with additional Panzer Corps, tank corps, under General Felix Steiner to the north, while the trapped 9th Army would make a break to the west and join them. Together, they were to relieve the capital from the Soviets, who had over 1 million men advancing. It was a plan, at least, but one that only existed on paper. Venk's army
How's it going,
had only
Afghan?
recently been reorganized with men from all branches that could still fight. That was the only requirement. But even this late in the war, the German army was still able and reliable, and they still had fight in them even in a futile battle. The army's diaries of this day read, "No deserters, no prisoners, no missing."
Could ever have believed? Seems like
Hey, that's a really good that's a good terminology to have right there.
Yep.
Like, wow. I like
Yep.
that. No, I mean, when you put your oath, you swear to never leave a fallen comrade.
Reliable, and they still had fight in them
Soldier
even
Street.
in a futile battle. The army's diaries of this day read, "No deserters, no prisoners, no missing."
could ever have believed? Seems like nothing's been achieved. Just to walk a day, go all the way. The fronts are closing in. As the end is drawing near, the 12th Army interfere. Open up or out, get people out. It's forces spread out there.
We got it, but hey, it supports them. It's all right. We can deal with it.
The 12th Army was heading to
That
Berlin.
quick.
They had only a few vehicles and tanks, mostly mobile assault guns, and little fuel, so the men had to make the 150 kilometers to Berlin on foot. By the 25th, they had reached the outskirts of Berlin, but the situation had worsened dramatically. The Soviets were already south of
It's a long hike.
Bro.
Nah.
Potsdam and east of Brandenburg an der Havel, west of Berlin. The surrounding of the capital was nearly complete, and the Soviet forces were much stronger than anticipated. While examining his maps, General Venk hesitated. Was relieving Berlin even possible at this point? In talks with Keitel, though, the orders from the bunkers under Berlin were clear. Get
Yes, 37 minutes in. That's not bad.
the Führer out. His destiny is Germany's destiny. Only you, Venk, only you have the power to save Germany now.
Right.
So Venk went to work. The only chance to relieve Berlin at this stage was to split his troops towards the north and south and relieve as many of the defending German forces around Berlin as possible so they could make up a small reserve for an attack towards Berlin itself. This would maybe destroy enough Soviet.
Hey, Elibot, join that Discord link up above, and me and you can talk after the stream today, and you can let me know how to do that, where it works with the browser. I'm always about having the community involved.
Forces,
Evolved too. I mean, hopefully you're there.
or just hold them back enough to give Berlin some breathing space and for civilian refugees to escape the city. But even that would only be temporary. But Keitel rejected this plan. Berlin itself had highest priority. A push toward the Führer must be done immediately, and that's it. Well, Venk knew that this would quickly be the suicide of his army, and he realized that German high command had totally lost touch with the situation and the reality of the war. Steiner's tanks in the north were already being pushed back, and the 9th was fighting for its life. In this situation, Venk chose not to follow the direct orders from Adolf Hitler himself. Instead, he, quote, had to follow the guideline of his conscience. Saving Berlin was impossible. The only thing his army could maybe achieve was getting as many people away from the Soviet advance as possible. By attacking towards Potsdam, he would relieve the encircled garrison there. And by creating a corridor from there towards Berlin, they'd be able to let refugees flee the city. An attack to the south would give the 9th Army a chance to join their lines. Venk called this his Rettungswerk, pretty much his rescue mission. Only on this would he gamble the lives of his young soldiers. In the early morning hours of April 26, the
Yeah, I get it, J. Rich, yeah.
final German
it's
offensive
true.
of the war began.
Who'll survive and who will die? Up to Kriegsglück to decide. Those who made it cross without a loss have reason to reflect. It is not about Berlin. It is not about the Reich. It's about the men who fought for them. What peace can they expect?
Elements of the 12th
That I stopped the video and I explained this really deeply in the video as well. I mean, think about that. The people that fought on the Nazi side for the Axis, that were only following orders, that weren't actually morally committing crimes against humanity, how do they rest in peace? Because they're just always labeled as a Nazi, even though they were just following orders as a soldier at war. And now I'm speaking the ones outside of all the atrocity that happens, all that bullshit that shouldn't have happened. I'm talking the soldiers that actually fought and died on the Nazi side just to be a soldier, doing his job.
There are people, I believe, that fight because that's their job, that don't necessarily buy into the ideology.
Exactly.
And it happens in every army, in every service.
It
There
does.
are people who don't necessarily agree with the ideology, but it is their job, and as their job, they're going to do what they're going to do. My family is a quarter German, and on my grandfather's side, on my mom's side, and they felt a sense of shame about what had happened, but they had already escaped after World War I and come over.
They definitely, Mia and JDV. Oh God, he froze. What? How is this happening?
Remember, it was who said it at the beginning of the stream
What
that
the
now
hell?
back to school is gonna freeze,
This is
and now I'm
mess
gonna be fine.
everything up. Oh God. Screw that. All right, let's go.
12th Army made their way northeast. The key to their advance was the infantry division Hutten, hardcore veterans who had just days before recaptured Wittenberg from the Soviets and held off overwhelming forces for days. Now they were the wedge that drove into the Soviet positions with artillery.
What?
Yo, Vet, I'm down here.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
I mean, hopefully, what?
But hi.
This is outrageous. Back to school's killing me.
It wasn't even my fault this time. I mean,
No, it wasn't. But guess what? I'm just going to give you a face. Get rid of this so you guys get to see this live. Ready? Boom. And here we go.
Artillery and tank hunters. The Soviets were totally caught off guard by the attack, and by midday, the 12th Army had advanced 18 kilometers toward the city of Bielitz. On Hutten's flank were the elite Scharnhorst Grenadiers, who pushed down the Autobahn through the night, throwing themselves against the tenacious Soviet defense. House-to-house fighting against superior heavy tanks was vicious and costly, and they often had to resort to close-range attacks with Panzerfausts, single-shot anti-tank guns. They went days without sleep or sufficient food, while the Soviets were constantly reinforced, but despite heavy casualties, they made progress towards Berlin. By May 1st, the 9th Army had managed to use the momentum of the 12th and break out of their encirclement. Spirits rose as the exhausted soldiers of the 9th and the hundreds of civilians with them joined the 12th. But seeing the ragged and wounded men limping into his ranks, Venk marveled at Hitler's insane plan to fight the Soviets head on.
What's behind us, bro? Or in front of us? Like, what are you looking at?
Oh, it was.
9th had been nearly destroyed just fighting for its survival and the survival of the many civilians in its midst. Other fighting forces were able to link up with Venk as well. And the same day, Hutten reached a large German military hospital near Potsdam. Once more, the fighting was brutal as they stormed the Soviet trenches, but for 24 hours, they were able to get many hundreds of wounded soldiers, nurses, and Red Cross personnel out before the Soviets could return. This was the very end of the European part of the war, and it is difficult to find and follow the reports from the last days of the fighting around Berlin. The Germans did not make many records. The Americans also often didn't record a lot of it, and the Soviet archives are still not fully available. Neither Steiner nor Venk reached Berlin.
It's crazy that the Soviet archives still aren't available this long after. You know, that's
Are
insane.
are they redacted or
They're
just like top secret
They're
or
just confidential. Yeah.
confidential?
Yep.
I mean,
Berlin, though.
that's crazy.
Hitler chose suicide over capture in his bunker.
It's the end of the war. Reach for endless joy.
On May the 2nd, Venk's army retreated. It would protect the refugees and bring them across the Elbe and into American custody. Day and night they marched, avoiding contact with the enemy from the east as long as possible. Soviet pursuit, though, was initially weak as they were concentrating on taking Berlin. On the 3rd, Venk made contact with American
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, JDV. That's disgusting that they were doing that.
General William Simpson of the 102nd U.S. Infantry Division of the 9th U.S. Army near Tangermunde. Now, the Allies had agreed among themselves that either the German army would capitulate as a whole or that small groups could capitulate to them individually via their commanding officers. But there was a hitch. This partial capitulation could only happen to the opponent.
Oh yeah, definitely what the Soviets did at the end of the war were almost as bad. I mean, even things during the war throughout, even against their own people. Well,
We have a special
how
guest.
was that? Yeet. Oh, you should have yeeted it on the stream.
Actually engaged with, which for Venk was the Soviets. To surrender to the Americans, Venk technically would have to attack them and then surrender. Well, the Americans simply kept silent in regard to the surrender proposal. They did not fire on the advancing Germans either, in violation of the Allied contract. Still, General Simpson let the wounded cross the river, but only with just enough medical supplies for them. Same with Venk's soldiers and their personal provisions, but he would not allow civilians to cross. Men were even sent out with whips on the partially collapsed bridge to hold back civilians trying to cross with the soldiers. It could have been more of a human tragedy were it not for sudden Soviet fire that rocked the remnants of the bridge. This killed several American soldiers, so a 2-kilometer retreat from the river was ordered. This allowed civilians to cross the river. Venk's army soon had to fight the Soviets, though, who had renewed their attacks once they realized what was going on.
I mean, the Soviets were just badass because they had pure numbers. That and
Yeah, 1,000,000 soldiers attacking Berlin. 1,000,000
that's a lot.
is what they said earlier.
Yeah,
And
that's,
like the German forces are just like, I'm gonna head out.
I mean, looking at the buildings from the bombing, JDV. I mean, hell yeah, the civilians suffered. I mean, they're built. It was.
With
I mean,
each
yeah,
break
when aircraft bombed like cities and stuff, there was no consideration to civilian life.
No,
Like
not at all.
wherever the bombs hit, they hit. If it killed
It's
civvies,
not guided
I mean,
like it is today.
yeah.
in the lines, Venk had to order young men to their deaths to recapture and hold positions for just an hour or two so that others could live. It was a final act of self-sacrifice in a war that was essentially over. As the last German grenades were shot, the last artillery pieces and the last tanks were blown up, and then the last German soldiers, among them General Walter Venk himself, crossed the river and entered American captivity. In the end, thousands of soldiers, civilians, nurses, women, children, and the elderly were saved from the fall of Berlin. As an end note here, on the 8th of May, as the very end came, many men and women attached to the 9th Army were extradited back to the Soviets. To this day, we don't know the exact reasons for that, though we do know that there were several suicides to escape that fate.
See the city burn on the other side, going down in flames as two worlds collide. Who can now look back with a sense of pride? On the other shore, there's the end of the war.
See, I mean, look at that devastation. I mean, I understand you're hitting, you know.
Now, you said that this song was inspired by a video game. Can you dig into that a
yeah,
little?
there's
Yeah,
a game
Hearts of
called Hearts
Iron.
of Iron.
Right.
So, and we have a
play
song called
that.
Hearts of Iron. So there's obviously a connection there.
Right.
So,
Hold on, did I just hear somebody reconnect? No.
many years ago, when we had a concert in Stockholm, we were approached at an after party by people from this Swedish development studio of games called Paradox.
Right.
And some of the guys came and they said that they were big fans of us and they really appreciate the work that
Oh, everybody's welcome here. We're just all about discussion, that's all.
we are doing with writing music about history. And we started to talk about that we are doing pretty much the same thing. I mean, they are doing games about history and we are doing music about it. They asked us, is there any way that you can like write a song that would be like a lead theme for our game that is coming? And we said, okay. And when we were researching, we came across the story about Walter Venk, and it took a while to keep discussing and developing the idea. We did other things connected to this, and inside of Hearts of Iron, there is released now soundtrack of Sabaton. Okay. So it was possible to get the music, our songs, when you play the game. It's pretty funny actually today, but a lot of our fans in China discovered Sabaton through the game Hearts of Iron. Okay. When we speak sometimes with developers of games, they often talk about how important music.
I didn't know there. Yeah,
I've played Hearts of Iron heavily. I did not know Sabaton had a.
Hey, Captain Cumshot, what's going on, brother? Hey, thank you for the $5. Sorry, boys, what you missed. Hey, we're into the second one. We're about to the end of the second one. Hearts of Iron is what we're doing right now. We've already done Smoking Snakes, and then we're about to do a vote right after this one here in a few minutes. I appreciate it, brother. Welcome. Let's go.
Inside of that.
Game, sure.
And if the stream's lit enough, there might be a 5th episode. Who knows?
Pretty funny because for a lot of people today, music is not important anymore. I mean, you see the whole industry of music taking a big tough hit, and people are not as willing to pay for music as they used to be.
Well, there you have it, Hearts of Iron 4 featuring Sabaton music, and that was all for today with Hearts of Iron.
On Sabaton History Channel. Alright, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Sabaton History Channel, check out Indie's other channels, and support us on Patreon, because that's what makes this happen.
Don't you
JV,
swear.
I got
Don't
about
you
like
swear
200
on my damn stream, ghost.
Dude,
I got about
YouTube-
200 hours in Hearts of Iron 4. It's a really fun game, especially if you like
There you go.
history.
Talk
and stuff.
about the game because I'm kind of interested in it too.
Yeah.
Because I've never played it and I want to. I made myself way too small.
Yeah, you made yourself way too small. If you
Oh,
haven't
don't do
yet,
that.
go ahead and join in on our Discord if you want to hang out with me, Vet, Back to School, and a couple other reactors. The Discord is always open. We always have
Go
a
back
great
to school.
time.
Go quick. Go.
I'm hurrying.
You're
Wait,
seeing
go
a
to
switch.
the bathroom. Go to the bathroom.
No,
Red, you
go to
said
the
it's a
bathroom.
DLC for
Turn
for
your
the
camera
heart,
on.
for the Sabaton stuff.
Here we go. Camera on. Ready? Logitech off.
Now,
Camera on.
as we're doing this and setting this
Jeez, that's
stuff
a lot
up,
of hours.
I need you guys to vote on what you want next. Far from the Fame or the
Dude,
Ballad
why
of
do I look
Bull?
like that in real time, bro?
Shh, I was speaking.
Oh, okay.
Now I need those votes to start going and these guys start counting as I start adjusting and putting in the new link.
I
It's
can't.
okay,
You can't
technical
count on me for
difficulties.
anything right now,
Here we go. We're back in action there.
bro. What the?
You're
I'm
gonna see
looking at the
how
wrong
quickly
screen.
we do all this around her. I don't know why I said it like that. Let's go.
Around
Come
her?
on. Do the votes. I
Around
need
her?
votes.
Around
Need
her.
some votes here.
Around her. Vote.
Far from Fame.
The Ballad of
Far from
Bull
Fame.
or Far from the Fame?
Bull.
Let's go.
Bull.
Roll them.
Come on, guys. Come on.
We got. I only see one.
I
bull.
know.
2 Bull.
Moscow would have
bulls.
been German. That's crazy. Bull,
Bull.
again.
All right,
Bull.
2 for 2.
Bull. One bull. bull.
Yeah, don't count Jay
Yeah,
Rich's like
there's
no
another
Oh
bull.
God, bull.
Bull
Okay,
is it.
Captain Cumshot said bull, so we're gonna go with it. And everybody else started saying bull anyway, so that's what we're gonna go with. Let's see.
That's bull.
I mean, it is bull. I mean, so let's put on bull. I mean, we might as well, right?
In ba-
Oh,
Dude, look at how many bulls we got.
I mean, honestly, it's like, okay. I don't know what's going on here. I'm having some technical difficulties
Yeah,
of
you
my
have more
own.
technical.
Yeah, that's just Vet is always having technical
That's just you.
technical difficulties all the time. Don't pay him
just
any
keep
mind.
talking. I need you to keep talking and entertain the
So
crowd.
so we got 2 left. We got Bull and then Far from Fame. Right?
Yep.
Interesting.
So
No, Jay Rich, you're the one who
No,
needs the crayons.
with you not listening to the reactions, let me just give you a little cue on what.
And well, okay. In all fairness, can I ask this question? Hey, Vet, did you watch Raven's reaction to the thing he did today?
Raven's reaction today?
Yeah,
I didn't know he did a reaction today. I came on
exactly.
I came
Exactly.
on from
Whoa.
my.
Did you watch
Whoa.
his? Did you watch his
Whoa.
reaction yesterday?
Yep.
Did he do a reaction yesterday?
Look, I tried to get a
He
reaction.
didn't
but
do a
OBS
reaction today either,
OBS,
so
you know,
nice try.
OBS didn't
I
like
just told him.
yesterday.
See, now you guys are seeing live bickering because I just told Raven this morning he needed to freaking do more reactions. And
Renton says, by the way, Vet, you never did the history of Rourke's Drift.
Rourke's Drift.
Is that one you reacted to?
Which one's that from? If you could refresh my memory.
Refresh our memory. Hey, Vocal Crow, our friend
Ow,
is
ow,
here.
ow, 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 ow.
He's getting clawed by a cat right now. All right, everybody. You want to see the kitty? Put it the kitty. No, don't eat the kitty. Put it on your shoulder and let it sit. All right. So
Dude,
now
watch it.
this one, the Ballad of Bull. Now this one is actually. Hey, Vocal Crow, what's going on, brother? Hey, welcome to the stream. Thank you, everybody that's in here. We got 61 viewers. I appreciate it. Hit that like button if you're having fun. We finally got everything figured out. We got all three of us. Hopefully,
They said that's from the Last Stand album.
that's from The Last Stand. Okay, I'll hit that up. I'll record that after this.
Okay.
Well, a little bit later, probably. But, you know, anyway, the Ballad of Bull is recorded during 2020, during the pandemic. As you can see, they are split screen and they are not in the same place.
Somebody said
Wait,
eat the kitty.
he can't eat the kitty. No.
We know that. He won't eat the kitty. We already know that about him. He loves the kitty, but he won't eat the kitty.
No. I don't even know where this went.
Left turn.
So we just went all completely left. All right, we're going to get into the Ballad of the Bull before we go any further.
Some of the biggest heroes in war are those men who don't actually fight.
And one of them we wrote a song about, the Ballad of Bull.
Yep.
Born in 1916,
I'm sorry I'm pausing already, but I love that. Let me go back. I mean, because we ain't
piano?
got the song, that piano is...
Yeah.
It's just... I don't care who you are. If you don't...
Born in 1916, Leslie Allen had a tough time growing up in Ballarat in Victoria, Australia. His father was a strict and unforgiving man, and there were domestic violence issues in Allen's childhood. The Great Depression hit the family hard, and when the father abandoned them, Allen and his sister were sent to an orphanage. The work on the farm of the orphanage, however, gave Allen not only an eventual trade, but also steeled his body. And that hard physical work paid off, for his main hobby was Australian football. And he earned his nickname Bull from his technique of simply rushing over the other players. By April 1940, Bull Allen was 23 years old, out of a job, and in need of money. So he joined the freshly formed 2nd Australian Imperial Force. By comparison with the days of the Great War,
Makes sense. You need money, you join the military.
the Australian military forces were in fairly bad shape, but conscription had been reintroduced in January 1940 after Australia had followed Great Britain into the new war against Germany. Assured by the British government that the ambitions of Imperial Japan presented no immediate danger to Australia's defenses, the 2nd Australian Imperial Force prepared to send forces to the European and African theaters. By September, Allen had undergone his basic training and was to serve as a stretcher bearer. He was too late to fight in France, so the Australians were instead eventually sent to take part in the Western Desert and the Syrian campaign to secure the Allied assets in North Africa and the Middle East. Bull Allen was well liked by his mates. However, he was far from being a model soldier, described as impatient and troublesome. And every now and then he got into trouble with his superiors by not following military conventions or by simply disregarding regulations.
Is that
Allen
so,
had
J.
first-hand experience.
He said it sounds a little like us, Bet.
Uh,
Not the ideal soldier. A little upset at times, a little maladjusted.
I may
What,
or may not be
are-
able to
are we
confirm
saying-
the existence of UFOs.
UFOs, right? Oh Lord, dude, that's funny.
It's definitely us.
Was well liked by his mates. However, he was far from being a model soldier, described as impatient and troublesome. And every now and then he got into trouble with his superiors by not following military conventions or by simply disregarding regulations. Allen had first-hand experience under fire.
I meant both, J. Rich. Nah, you ain't throwing me under the bus. We in it together, bro.
He carried wounded soldiers from the battlefield, often remaining with them for hours until proper medical help could be provided. But although Bull Allen was a big guy with a strong constitution, the stress of battle took a toll on his psyche. After another incident with superiors, Allen was sent to a hospital in Palestine to be treated
Of
for
course you were,
anxiety
Jared.
neurosis, which was better known as shell shock, or nowadays as post-traumatic stress disorder.
Sometimes war is killing, sometimes it's saving lives. From Australia's shore, Bull Allen
Oh,
went
right,
to
of
war.
course.
Sometimes war.
Only problem is I've heard stories from your brother, Jay Rich.
It's taken lives. Thanks to one single man, a dozen more survives.
Yep.
So
Dude, that's
powerful.
a beautiful.
So-
That's a beautiful line in that song right there.
And
So
it's-
this is
and
kinda-
it's so true, man.
this
Go
is
ahead.
kind of like the Australian version of Hacksaw Ridge,
He's a big guy. That's not bad.
right?
And, you know, yeah, yeah. Sometimes war is killing, and sometimes war is saving. That's
lives.
the
Saving
ultimate
lives.
truth.
As the threat to the Allies in northern Africa and the Middle East receded, the Australians were desperately needed back home. The Allies had underestimated the reach of Japanese.
Hey, JDV, I appreciate you being here for so long. You have a good day. Enjoy, or evening and night, whatever it is in your region. Have a good one. I appreciate it.
Ambitions.
You're,
After Pearl
you're right, Captain Cumshot. It's a beautiful song. It
Yep,
really
absolutely
is.
beautiful song.
Harbor, the Japanese southern offensives of December 1941 and early 1942 pushed across the archipelagos of Southeast Asia. Even the Australian city Darwin came under a Japanese carrier attack in February 1942, and an invasion of the Australian mainland seemed to be in the cards if the Japanese advance could not be checked. In late 1942, the already war-weary Bull Allen left the Middle East when his battalion was sent from the desert plains to fight in the humid jungles of Papua New Guinea, alongside contingents from the Netherlands, New Zealand, Canada, and Britain. The Japanese had won some early victories over the outnumbered and outgunned Australians, who repeatedly had to withdraw and cede territory. But by late 1942, the Australians began pushing back. The war along the Kokoda Trail was fought over treacherous terrain in a murderous climate. Waist-high kunai grass and dense undergrowth hampered movement, while the thick tree canopies blocked out the sunlight. Steep razorback ridges crisscrossed the jungle, and muddy swamps engulfed whole large areas. This was no place for grand maneuvers or big flanking operations, but a place for small groups of heavily armed men fighting for each position and dugout. Climate was an enemy in itself. The oppressive heat and the general dampness from the moisture in the air sapped the strength
God.
of even the toughest
Ugh.
Look at
I
that.
remember having a low crawl in that. You remember that, J. Rich? Ugh.
troops in mere days, and poorly planned operations were defeated just by the hostile terrain. Plagued by insects and diseases like malaria, both the Australians and the Japanese suffered more casualties from disease than from enemy fire. Often it was almost impossible to evacuate the wounded, as the driving rains turned the few trails into knee-deep mud. Sometimes it could take up to 12 stretcher bearers to transport one wounded man.
Jeez.
Initially, Japanese commander Hitoshi Imamura
That's
planned
crazy.
to advance his forces all the way to Port Moresby, though he was eventually stopped from this by stiff resistance. After 6 months of bloody fighting and raiding, the Allies had achieved a stalemate, but with the arrival of American General Douglas MacArthur on the scene, plans were made to reverse the positions and drive the Japanese out of New Guinea. MacArthur did not refrain from criticizing the performance of the Australian troops and what he saw as a lack of aggressiveness
Yeah, you're right, J. Rich. Not enough water.
in
Thought I was
advancing
gonna
against the
get stuck and
Japanese, but
drown.
realistically,
What are we going
I
to say,
didn't-
Raven?
I didn't know Japan actually moved like they were. I thought Japan like stuck it out on their homeland and like we invaded them. I didn't know they were in like New Guinea and stuff.
No,
Oh,
they
they
were
were
everywhere.
invading
We had the
places.
island hop for the
What? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's all you really hear about. Like honestly, about Japan, that side of the war was the island hopping and stuff. You did like
what New Guinea is.
But it's a
Just
distance.
yeah, it's just a little bit further away.
Yep.
MacArthur had
Hey, cheers, everybody. Cheers if you're drinking. Cheers.
Yep.
had little experience of what it meant.
Appreciate everybody being out here. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like, join the Discord channel in the description, and it's shared in the chat every so often.
To fight in the dense, murderous jungles of Papua New Guinea. Soon the Australian units were reinforced by American troops. With the U.S. Air Force dominating the skies, the combined power of the Allies moved against the Japanese strongholds. The goal was to capture Lae and Salamaua while preventing the enemy from any further advances. By July 1943, the Japanese hold on New Guinea became increasingly desperate, but they were far from beaten. Bull Allen had already been awarded the military medal for rescuing several wounded comrades from the battlefield while under fire. But now, he found himself at the foothills of Mount Tambu, a strategic point.
Renton just said the Japanese made it as far as India.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I thought, like, dang.
That's crazy.
Yep.
And then 2 bombs ended it all.
Point near Salamaua.
Right.
Japanese commander had mistakenly thought that the Allies would push directly towards Salamaua and had concentrated his forces on the mountain top. So now his forces were caught out of position. But despite the Allied success in outmaneuvering the enemy, the Japanese were still deeply entrenched and were ready to fight for Mount Tambo with fanatic determination. Bull's battalion slowly ground away at the Japanese positions in the foothills, which soon resembled a moonscape.
Hey, Captain Cumshot with
Cheers.
$2. Cheers, boys. I appreciate it.
He did it. He did it. He paid. Cheers. I have to cheers with you. Hang on. Man,
if I cheered, I'd have to go all the way out and get some. So cheers. Thank you. I appreciate it, Captain Cumshot, as always.
I'm doing this for you guys.
Were knocked down by constant machine gun fire, and the ground was dug up and flung everywhere from all the mortar shells. The Allies managed to secure the lower slopes and ridges, but the Japanese staged several counterattacks to throw them out. The Australians prevailed, though, and once the Japanese had lost hundreds of men in futile attacks, they seemed vulnerable. The Australians prepared to storm the summit.
Yes, they did. Right.
On July 24th, they advanced, but they were repulsed by the Japanese and took heavy casualties. High command still wanted that mountaintop taken, and another assault was planned for July 30th. This time, they would send in an American battalion. As the Americans headed up the slopes, Bull Allen and the other stretcher bearers, as well as Australian mortar crews, were to stand by and offer assistance if called upon. The Americans attacked, but like the Australians, ran into entrenched Japanese defenders with machine guns and mortars. Casualties were heavy, and the wounded soon littered the field. Allen watched as the wounded cried for help. 2 American medics were shot right in front of his crew by Japanese snipers, so without receiving any orders to do so, Bull Allen stepped forward and ran up the muddy hill and into the chaos of the battlefield. Soon after, he came back down the mountain with a wounded soldier on his back. Already, this was a feat of major courage, but Allen did not stop and ran back once more. And once more after that. Time and time again, he came down the mountain, struggling down the narrow gully of the trail with yet another wounded man on his back. Then he set off again towards the sounds of battle.
Bro,
supposedly,
that's a hero.
The other men...
That right there is a hero. They can back that up and tell the story.
That's a hero, dude.
Just to keep going back into the fire. It is.
You're walking back there just to try and get a man out of there so he stands a chance of living at the risk of your own life. That's a hero. Period.
And made bets whether Allen would return another time. His luck had to run out at some point, and yet return he did. The American soldiers described him as a godsend. It was like Allen had some sort of aura of invincibility around him. Calm and seemingly unconcerned for what was going on around him, he just focused on getting the wounded from the battlefield. 12 times Bull Allen went into the fray, and 12 times Bull Allen returned with a wounded soldier on his shoulders. He finally stopped because his body could go on no longer. His sleeves,
for sure. If it
his
weren't
trousers,
for Sabaton.
his hat were all in tatters, riddled by bullets and shrapnel, but miraculously, Bull Allen came out untouched. Allen would physically survive all the
Right.
fighting in New Guinea.
Absolutely.
But the battle for
J-Rich.
Mount Tambu further damaged his mental health. After a fight with his superiors in 1944, Bull Allen was discharged from the army for constitutional temperamental instability and emotional retardation with anxiety symptoms.
Wow.
His continuing
no,
problem
they're
with shell
shell-shock.
shock was worsening, so he was sent back home to recuperate. It is said that his behavior was erratic, often volatile, and at one point he even stopped speaking. For 6 months, he locked himself away working on an uncle's farm until he finally found the strength to speak again. Slowly, Allen recovered and eventually got married and raised a family. But the trauma of the war never left him. All his life.
That's a sad story that's oh so true about every veteran around the world today that
Yep.
suffer from shell shock, post-traumatic stress disorder, whichever way you want to say it. It's all the same beat to the drum, but it ain't nothing fun.
Allen would suffer from flashbacks and the effects of PTSD, which sadly could not be adequately treated or even properly diagnosed back in those days.
Right.
Nonetheless, the 12 men whom Bull Allen saved on Mount Tambu remembered and revered him for his deeds long after the war. He received many letters from them and their families, and even Eleanor Roosevelt, America's first lady during the war, wrote him several times. Although Australia has never officially recognized his actions to this day, the U.S. awarded Leslie Bull Allen the Silver Star, one of their highest awards for gallantry and bravery in the face of the enemy. And had he been an American soldier, he would likely have won the Congressional Medal of Honor at least once for his bravery
At least.
that day.
At least.
Hold on, J-Rich, agree with me. At least once. How many Medal of Honors do you think you would have got out of running back in 12 more times? Or 12 times in and out with saving one person?
It ain't even from your country.
I'm thinking at least 3.
Yep. That's cool, Renton.
Well, this is an interesting song for me, Per, not just musically and historically. It's because unlike most of your songs, I did not know the story of this until I heard the song and knew the song. I mean, you know, I knew about Audie Murphy before I knew who Sabaton was, things like that. But I didn't know this, so this was a fairly new story for me. So how did it come about that you wrote just this song?
It's a bit odd song. I mean, Joachim started to write this on tour. He was playing it, and I was really convinced that it has a big potential, but it's a bit... we didn't know how we would orchestrate this song at all. For this, we asked a couple of good friends of us.
It was all the same.
And two guys from our hometown, Daniel and Philip. We have been doing a couple of things together over the years, and Daniel was actually playing keyboards in Sabaton a long time ago. They had some ideas about how to orchestrate it in a way of making it more like a ballad and an anthem than a proper metal song. And we thought, okay, it could be interesting. And when the song was ready, it was really difficult for us to find any topic for it. We said, we need a heroic topic, but it needs to be something that is not really connected to war because it doesn't carry that feeling. So after doing a lot of research about like peaceful heroes or non-fighting heroes in war, we came with Leslie Allen that the song is about, and we like the story a lot, and it fitted so well into the lyrics. This song is like mixed appreciated by fans because of the way it is orchestrated, the way it sounds. It doesn't really typically sound like Sabaton. Some people really love this song, some people don't. It's a song we never performed live yet.
I was going to ask if it was something that you performed off
I would
live
do
or
that
not.
live.
No. It's very difficult as well for us to figure out how we could possibly perform it live. We are in contact with descendants of Leslie Allen down in Australia. we thought maybe if we come to Australia at some point, we will have to play it somehow, and
Yeah, the
we have
cat.
been talking a little bit how we could possibly orchestrate the song.
Well, speaking of touring and any future tours of Australian things, now, the last time you and I met, we were in Minsk doing some filming because you were just about to go off on tour, just about to go to Eastern Russia to start. You started in the far east of Russia, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's sad that they didn't even recognize him.
Absolutely.
His deeds. And yeah, the cat's crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna have those cats available on the merch page
Yeah,
soon.
in
You can have one.
Sakhalinsk.
And then your tour was canceled. Now, how far had you gotten in Russia before it was canceled, and what did that mean for you and your crew, and how has it affected the band and stuff? So since the actual cancellation,
We were pretty much halfway through the tour, and we made about half of the shows. We were supposed to do 18 shows, all in all, and we made 9 out of them. And now we have rescheduled the rest for November, but it was a tough decision, but nothing, it was beyond our control, of course, when we had to go home. And since then, the Sabaton machine, the touring machine of Sabaton has been standing still. No more shows for a long time. In the middle of the Russian tour, we were supposed to announce another arena tour all across Europe. And it was something we first postponed and thought maybe we can release it in May or something, and we still keep the dates on hold. But somewhere in April, I realized that we will not be able to do an arena tour in the time as we planned in 2021, so we had to cancel that. But there's a big chance that the next show we're gonna do is when we are back in Russia, it's where we ended, and then that's where we start.
you start in Yekaterinburg, eller? Or
We will not start in Ekaterinburg. The tour has changed a little bit routing due to the availabilities. It's very difficult to rebook something during this time. Very difficult to get anything done. There are some venues that don't exist anymore. There are promoters that have gone bankrupt. There are agents that don't work anymore. It's a lot of things that just doesn't exist anymore.
Dude,
but what
whoever's
about
moving his camera in that part of the
touring
video is
insurance and
making me
stuff for things
nauseous.
that happen? How does that work with the Russian shows? I mean, there must be insurance for
I'm trying not to pay
RJ,
attention to it.
welcome to the stream. I'm glad you could be here, brother.
something a tour this big.
Yay.
Well, at the time,
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the cat is the entertainment with, you know, the guy in the middle here.
Dude, this
when the
cat's out of control.
The cat's just.
She finally
We need-
laid down.
Corona hit, it was
For
very
now.
difficult to have an insurance for pandemics.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Very
Yeah.
few people actually
Yeah,
have
that-
that.
Yeah.
In the terms of the Russia, there was no insurance for this. We have to work in good faith and come back with a plan and make sure that agents, promoters, band, everybody, crew members, that it keeps on. In this case, we pay the full crew salaries to the guys, even for the canceled shows and stuff like that. Not
That's
leaving
cool.
anybody behind, and we sought
That's
immediately to find a solution
Oh,
for the
yeah.
promoters to
That's very
regain
cool.
their lost profits, and by booking new shows where there was a possibility to make up for the damage caused. And I think we succeeded pretty well in this.
Well, that's really cool,
Yeah,
and it'll be
the
great
thing
if you
that's
guys actually
amazing about
can
that
finish
is
the
if you
Russian
think
tour,
about it,
obviously
they
later
paid
this year. So, not least because people
Obviously
will
for
get to
the
see you
one,
play.
which
all the
means
people
if they
that wanted
do
to
go
see
out,
you,
they're going to pay
especially in
twice
all those
for a
towns
show
over
that only
Russia.
existed once.
Well,
That's dedication to their crew. That's dedication that you're not
Oh,
willing to
yeah.
let anybody, lose their job over this.
Exactly. You pay
And
him for it anyway.
that just puts another level of respect for me. with these
good
guys.
luck getting out
Mhm.
of Moscow and getting back home after all this time. I'm sure it'll feel great to get home, and I'm happy that I could actually get back to my place in Stockholm eventually. All right, well that is it for today, but we will see you next time.
Here on the Sabaton History Channel.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
Excellent.
That's amazing to me.
Yep. Dude, that
12
that
people.
and his his country still
Thank you
hasn't
everybody for
recognized
watching,
him.
and thank you everybody for supporting. And those
And
who
yet,
don't do it,
all
click the
12 of
bell,
those men
subscribe, and become a patron.
remembered
Thank you
what
very
he
much.
did, and still his country doesn't recognize it. I mean, that's kind of nuts.
So, I mean, talk about heroism. You know, that's a prime example of it.
It's nuts because I think it was Jay Rich said at the beginning of the video that this is a guy doing this to he's going and supporting a division.
I'm Indy
that he has no
And
attachment to. That he has no attachment to, and yet still his dedication to the cause and his belief that the lives were important enough to risk going in there. He did it for a bunch of people that he didn't know. It wasn't like you guys out there and one of your buddies who was just with you got hit and you got to go get him. This is a guy who has no attachment to anybody and still says, I'm going up there.
It just keeps going in and out. So now we've got one last one remaining for the day. We've been going pretty long. We got Far from the Fame.
Far from the Flame. Far from the Fame. Okay.
So this was an interesting listen. Now we're going to get into the history. Okay. Let's go.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joakim from Sabaton. And this is Sabaton History.
Karol Janoušek is often forgotten today outside of Central Europe, but his story is a story worth telling.
And our song Far from the Fame is about his tragic but heroic life.
I know, Miloš. I know. Oh, dobrý večer. Karol Janoušek was born October 30th, 1893 in Přerov in Moravia, Silesia, the Czech domains of the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. Growing up in a large family, Janoušek prepared for a future as a clerk and was studying at a German business school when the empire declared war on Serbia in July 1914 and the First World War began. With major battles between the Austro-Hungarian and the Russian armies soon ravaging the Eastern Front, turning the fields of Galicia into a graveyard for hundreds of thousands of young men, the empire's war effort was close to collapse. In desperate need of fresh recruits to bolster the ranks, Karol Janoušek was conscripted into the army in June 1915. After completing his training in the 57th Imperial Royal Landwehr Regiment, he was sent away from the Eastern Front to the newly opened Italian front. This was because of his Czech heritage. The Czechs were often portrayed as...
Oh, J-Rich, we have 4 planned for the day. I had thought I had 4 last week, and I had said I had 4, and I only had 3. But this week I had to put it up because I actually had 4. So let's go.
Unreliable elements of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They and the Slovaks were, it's true, dissatisfied with imperial rule and their lack of autonomy and self-determination. So, doubting their loyalties and suspecting that various Slavic peoples would not fight well or would even desert to brother Russian Slavs, the Czechs and Slovaks ended up fighting in the numerous battles of the Isonzo River until the Eastern Front nearly collapsed under the weight of Russia's mighty Brusilov offensive in the summer of 1916. Even the possibly unreliable Czechs had to be pulled away to fight the Russian steamroller, which genuinely was close to knocking the Austrians out of the war. Anyhow, sometime around July 2nd, 1916, the high water mark of the offensive, Janoušek was captured by the advancing Russians and sent to a prisoner of war camp in Ukraine. Russian high command was well aware of the political discontent of the Czechs, Slovaks, and other Slavic soldiers serving in the Austro-Hungarian army, and planned on turning those men against their former emperor. Janoušek, like many other captured Czechs, took up the offer to switch sides in the hope that after the war, they might be allowed to rule their own country. On August 1st, he joined the 2nd Volunteer Division of the Serbian Army in Odessa, and in October 1916 became part of a Czechoslovak volunteer rifle regiment north of Kiev. After Russia's February Revolution in 1917, the Russian army slowly but surely disintegrated, and as Janoušek's unit was transferred to the front in July 1917, many Russian soldiers were simply deserting, but the Czechs and Slovaks remained, believing in their cause. In the Battle of Zborov, they proved their worth, breaking through the Austro-Hungarian lines on a broad front and taking...
I love those riffs in that song. Oh,
dude, when I see these clips and I see stuff like this and I see guys on horseback and these big like wagon wheels pulling the cannons, dude, that's so crazy. The way the equipment was, and to think they had to manage getting that stuff up hills and in all these ditches. Oh my gosh, dude, that's crazy.
Hundreds of prisoners in the process. It became a huge PR victory too, and the beginning of the legend that was the Czechoslovak Legion. Janoušek himself was wounded on July 18th and did not see any further action until after the October Revolution tore Russia apart. The anti-Bolshevik faction of the Legion refused then to surrender their arms. Fearing for their lives, they were forced to become involved in the Russian Civil War, since the way to the west was blocked by both Bolsheviks and Austria-Hungary. They captured an army.
Hey, Wesley, welcome back. We are on Far From the Fame. We are on the last video.
Train and fought their way east to the Pacific
Armored
Ocean
train.
and all the way around.
Did they jack a train? They jacked the train?
Yo, they hijacked the armored train.
Hey,
That's gangster right there. Talk about leaving it on bricks.
Right.
No, we just gonna take this whole thing.
The globe until they finally made it to Prague in February 1920. The mythos of the Legion and the overall Czechoslovak army.
Oh yeah, Mia, especially in this song, you got to appreciate the guitars, the riffs, the solo, unreal.
Was an integral part of the new state that was named Czechoslovakia, and Janoušek remained close to the army. After he had graduated from the War College in 1923, he joined the new Czechoslovak Air Force and began training as a pilot. Soon he was commander of an air reconnaissance course at Cheb in Bohemia, where he became fascinated with meteorology and the doctrines of Italian theorist Giulio Douhet. In Aerial Warfare, Douhet wrote, "There is no need for defensive tactics, since the skies are vast, and you can't build trenches like on the ground. The bomber will always get through, so the only option left is the offensive." Janoušek taught Douhet's theories on aerial superiority and how to maintain an aggressive spirit in the skies. As he studied further at Prague University in 1936, Nazi Germany set its sights on the Czechoslovak state. The dissolution of that state and its armies followed the German occupation in March 1930.
Hey, Captain Cumshot with $5. I appreciate it, brother. A great World War I documentary film is They Shall Not Grow Old. They shall not grow old. Huh.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to, matter of fact, somebody write that down for me, Raven. They shall not grow old. I'll think of back to school and I'll remember.
Which forced Janoušek and hundreds of defiant soldiers and officers to escape from Nazi rule.
Appreciate it,
with the help
Captain
of
Cumshot. Thank you, man, as always.
the underground resistance ring Obrana
You keep this stream going, man.
Naroda, Janoušek fled to France, going through Greece and French Lebanon, reaching Paris in December 1939. Immediately, he got in contact with the French government and other Czech officers trying to create a united Czechoslovak Air Force. But like the rest of the French army at the time, his plans were hindered by logistical and leadership deficiencies within the French army until it was too late. In the face of the German invasion in May and June 1940, Janoušek fled once more, this time via a Dutch ship to England. The British High Command was better organized, particularly with regard to their air force, but Janoušek and the other officers still had to jump through a whole load of diplomatic hoops until they were able to convince British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and company of their value. But once established, the Free Czechoslovak Air Force became a strong asset to the defense of the island. Fighting in RAF uniforms and planes, they fought the Germans throughout the Battle of Britain. The experienced Czechoslovak fighter pilots were awarded many medals. Janoušek especially, although disliked by many of his superiors, had been very much valued by the British as the best Czech commander around. By 1941, the Czechoslovak Air Force had over 1,600 active service members.
Yeah, for you.
They did grow old. That's
Yeah,
what it's called.
because you are old already.
Damn.
He's been wounded in war, he returns with awards. Into battle again, far from home, from a far distant land, our martial command.
Janoušek was a masterful organizer, and as Air Vice Marshal, spent much time overseeing the squadrons and their training. He made several trips to Canada and the U.S. to teach there, and was even knighted by King George VI as Knight Commander of the Order of Bath. In a speech to the British people, he emphasized that in their common fight against fascism, it was the qualities of liberty, decency, kindness, and common sense that made life worth living. But his fame did not escape his enemies' attention. Back in occupied Czechoslovakia, the Nazis killed his wife and a sister.
Jeez.
Damn. That sucks.
Dang, bro.
Well, talk about paying the ultimate price.
And one of his brothers perished in the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Buchenwald.
And a brother perished.
Many others from his large
in a
family were
concentration.
jailed and tortured in order to get information about him and the Czech resistance. After 5 years of fighting for a different country in a foreign uniform, the war came to a close and it was time to return home. But the journey home was problematic. As the Americans withdrew westward, all of Czechoslovakia fell under the Soviet zone of influence. Relocating British fighter squadrons back to Prague was already a diplomatic nightmare, yet still, by August 1945, Janoušek and his men were allowed to return to their home country as the official Czech Air Force.
Siblings sent to the death, his wife paid the ultimate price. Still, as the warrior son, you are our guide.
However, although the Nazis were gone, well, the country was by no means free. The supposed alliance between the Soviets and the Western Allies was breaking apart mere months after the end of the Third Reich. The Czech Communist Secret Service monitored every step Janoušek and his pilots made, and every man who had fought for the Western Allies was now suspicious, especially Karol Janoušek, who kept in contact with the British. He was put on a list of potential threats to the regime. The situation worsened dramatically after the coup of the Czech communists in February 1948. Backed by the Soviets, a wave of terror and persecution swept through the country. Tens of thousands were condemned in political show trials, and around 6,500 of them were executed, although the exact number is unknown. Janoušek lost his job, and as it was fruitless for him to find any new position in the military, he decided to flee the country once again. But this time, his escape attempt was betrayed by a double agent. He was arrested and quickly court-martialed as a traitor and deserter. The communists stripped him of everything, his rank, his awards, even his doctorate, and sentenced him to 18 years in prison.
Wow.
While in prison, a guard offered to help him flee. But although Janoušek refused, his sentence was increased to life in prison. In 1955, the political mood shifted again, and Janoušek's prison sentence was reduced to 25 years, and he would finally receive an amnesty in 1960. After the Prague Spring in 1968, Janoušek was rehabilitated, but it would take another 22 years until he would be restored his rank and awards. Karol Janoušek, however, passed away before that happened, on October 27, 1971. After the fall of the Czechoslovak communist regime, he was posthumously promoted to general, and all of his 40 awards, British, French, Russian, and from many other countries, were officially returned, and his service and sacrifices honored once again.
Yeah, that's crazy to think.
Czech or Czechoslovakia.
Were you gonna say something, Raven?
No, I'm good.
No, it's just crazy that he does all that, and then that's the way the rest of his life works out. He gets imprisoned for it. He gets out. He has everything that he did is taken away from him, and all of the benefits that go along with it.
Exactly.
That means something particular to just you, right?
Yes, Czech beer lies very close to my heart.
Okay, well there is that, but there's also, I assume, a lot of your hardcore fans know that you are half Czech, but maybe the casual ones do not know that.
No, my mother is Czech by birth and lived there until the 70s sometime, when a Swedish guy was there building, I guess, department stores and air conditionings and freezers and coolers.
Yeah?
And he did a little bit of a import.
Uh-huh. And which border did she escape across?
Escape. I think he smuggled her in the Freon tubes.
Oh, in the little ones?
Yeah.
Because you only got a little mother.
Oh, yeah. No, he kind of put it up, cut it into pieces, and
and you can do that with Czechs. You can stick them right back together.
Yeah, it's like Lego. Easy as fuck.
Yeah.
And we're getting off
Okay.
topic.
We are getting off topic. Anyhow, back to Far From the Fame. Okay. Well, stop laughing.
Yeah.
Tell us about the song.
feel
Then.
that,
Is there
bro.
anything? There's something unique about each of the songs. Of course, we can talk about all of them, but something that comes to mind about Far From the Fame.
Well, actually, the idea was given to us by our booking agent in Czech Republic,
Okay.
Gigi, in Czech.
Yep.
I just couldn't believe the story when I read it. And that song was basically written really fast. And it's the first time, actually, you can hear Chris playing guitar.
This is the first recording you did with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Siblings sent to the death. His wife paid the ultimate price. Still, that's the one he just thought. You are a guy.
And to, even though I grew up
Love
in
that
Sweden,
song.
I always spent my summers in Czech Republic. I feel more at home in Prague than in Stockholm, for example. I don't know, it sounds weird and, hippie style, but to get in touch with that part of your heritage somehow make me feel proud.
Czech?
No, I can order beer and tell people to fuck off. So
And you know what I always like? Because,
all you
when I
need.
lived there, of course, the first thing you learn is how to order beer. But you have different words for, pivo, piva, and piv, depending if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 beers. It's jedno pivo, dvě piva, tři piva, čtyři piva, and pět piv. See? And so if you order pět piv, you'll get 5 beers. If you say pět piva, you'll get a head shake because you're not ordering your beer properly.
this guy really knows Czech.
You learn a lot here on Sabaton History.
Yeah, I only remember what I do in adult life, which is basically, as I said, order beer. But I also remember these things from when I was a kid, and what was on TV, and the nursery rhymes and weird shit like that.
Wow.
So ententiki, dvašpaliki, čertvilekjels, elektriki, and that one is still with me. Kočkalesediro, a couple of other things. And I still have the memory of this little guy on a unicycle cycling the moon and saying Dobranoc, good night to all the kids. So it's weird how that stuck with me. Yeah, it's probably because I started ordering beer. I don't remember anymore.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, because I never got past 5.
No?
No, I can count higher than that.
Okay.
So. But, what? Oh, you want us to wrap it up? We can talk about this forever. Okay, that is Far From the Fame, and that is it from Sabaton History for this week. Nasledano.
That was
I
awesome.
don't know.
That was awesome.
All right, everyone, check us out on Patreon. If you're not a Patreon, you should become one. If not, you're gonna have to do 200 push-ups every day, and I'm gonna be fucking watching you. Click there for more cool videos. Check out Time Goes, check out World War II, On the Ground and Give Me 20. 20, unless you're a... Fuck. Yeah, let's do it again.
Raven signing up for that Patreon right
No.
now. He said
And then-
200, not a
No,
chance.
I am
then
not.
there it
No,
is.
no.
We have completed the videos for the day. We have done 4 Sabaton history videos. We are gonna have 3 for next weekend.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you the 2 songs we got left, plus we're gonna do part 2 next weekend. Make sure you join the Discord link that's in the chat. We are going to do part 2. We gotta do 7734 and Man of War. Those are the 3 last things that we're gonna do. And I still have to react to 2 of those songs. And then maybe one of the covers, most popular. So hopefully everybody out there enjoyed Sabaton History Saturday. We're getting pretty good at this. There were some technical difficulties. Raven made it through the whole thing. If you haven't
Dude,
already, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button.
I am
And
never
thank you,
stealing.
Back to School.
I'm never stealing Ravens Internet again, dude. That wasn't worth it.
Yeah, and thank you for joining me, Back to School.
Oh, no, thank
And
you for having me, man. I'm always honored to be here with you guys. And Sabaton is something that, like a lot of people, I'm getting an education, not just in music, but in history more than anything with this. And I really appreciate that.
I mean, I'm learning more and more as I go. As J. Rich said, we're all history fanatics here.
Yeah.
But you know what? Until next time, you guys, as I always like to say, stay safe, be blessed.